Hello, today I'll be showing off the medium gunners and what you can do with them and what you probably shouldn't do with them. We're going to start by going into guest offensive just on normal mode. It's easy just so I can really show them off. Now we're going to start by having these medium gunners closer to the trees just so they can get in them faster since their mobility is absolutely terrible. But we also want to have supply wagons. I guess I'll just put more medium gunners in there. Why not? Just I have so little space. We'll have these normal supply wagons just because medium gunners have so much ammo that they're really low supply demanding, so we don't need very much supplies. These two supply wagons will probably be enough for the entire game. Even without resupplying them, they're probably enough. First of all, with the medium gunners, you hopefully know how ambush perk is. I'm gonna assume that you do for my perks video, but I will still go over a couple important things, especially if it is unique to the medium or light gunners, like the light gunners cooldown. We'll get to that. But first of all, as you probably know, when they use ambush, they're using last turn's attack. So if they weren't able to attack last turn, then they won't be able to use their ambush, meaning if I were to move this guy up here, he loses his ability to attack because he moved, and therefore his ambush will be completely useless. Now it's alright because we know for a fact that there won't be any enemies the next turn, but if we didn't know that, it would be really dangerous to reposition the medium gunner. That's part of why the light gunner is used at all, is simply for repositioning purposes. Also, we can see that this spot here actually isn't very good. Sure, the medium gunner is in the trees, which is pretty important, but he's hitting these two tiles, or he's hitting this tile and this tile, I mean, but they don't really give anything. These tiles effectively have zero value for your medium gunner, even if he is a little bit safer by not being more in the open, you could say, since he's near the wall, which means he gives less value, but he's safer. He also doesn't give the vision in this space here, which is pretty important, just because then they can get all the way up here without anybody stopping them. Medium gunners, since they have really terrible mobility, things like the supply wagon are actually pretty helpful, though you might want to do the supply truck or half track just because they have so much mobility. But they're helpful because it adds way more mobility onto the medium gunner. Sure, it won't be able to do its ambush next turn, but as you saw, it started over here and now it's all the way over here, also covering up that missing value spot that we had before. When we spawn in a medium gunner, of course it can't attack. No units can right after being spawned in, but it just makes it extra hard because it'll have to reposition after being spawned in, and in most cases there won't be any good places to reposition it. You can't move into the headquarters, moving up here is in the open, moving here is in the open, and moving here is just worthless and it's still in the open. It's also important to note that the medium gunner right in front of it is the least vulnerable place because that's two spaces, where over here it only has one. This makes it very difficult for units to get all the way over here because they'll be stopped right in this space. Otherwise, if they went this way, they would get stopped in the first attacking space, whereas here, they get stopped here instead of getting stopped right in front, so they won't be able to attack. Sure, they won't be able to attack here either, unless they themselves are like a light gunner, so they have extra range. But from here, it's typically just better. As you can see, we are on turn 4, and my medium gunners still aren't even close to being done with repositioning, which means that in a harder difficulty map where you don't get to wait nearly as long, it's gonna really suck to reposition them unless you have transportation units. And supply wagons are good for this, but there is a lot better in pretty much the entire transportation unit tree. As you just saw, since it's using last turn's attack to ambush, you can hit enemy units twice. This is very helpful for getting one free kill if they send in infantry by itself. Of course, this does mean after using the second attack to finish them off, your medium gunner is now extremely vulnerable because it can't move and it can't ambush next turn. You see, this spot here is also a little bit iffy because it hits all of these areas, which is good. It hits really where the enemies are going to be coming from, but the medium gunner is not very safe. So he's providing really good value, but he himself is in a lot of danger. This medium gunner right here, the one that the bots have, is in one of the best places. He's providing basically the same amount of value while being in the trees, which is much safer. You can also see in these trees next to him, so if the enemies were to flank, he would see. Of course, once they got here, they would be able to fight back, but they would still get hit on their own turn. As you can see, this medium gunner is getting attacked. It used both of its attacks last turn. I'm faced with a bit of a hard decision. I can use this medium gunner to kill the bazooka, which is probably what I should do, but that means it's going to take even longer to reposition, and I am on turn 6. So it has been quite a while, and I'm still not where I want to be. But I said it's a hard choice. It's really not a choice because I really have to do that. It just means it's not the most preferable outcome. You should be also looking out for situations like this, where you know your medium gunner is kind of screwed, because you have this bazooka here, and its morale isn't great, but its health is full. And the medium gunner has already attacked this turn, so there's really no way for it to protect itself. So in these situations, you have to make sure you have something like this medium gunner here who will protect. Of course, make sure you don't reposition this medium gunner, because otherwise this medium gunner will be 100% defenseless. This way, he'll at least get a hit on the bazooka, which will likely reduce its damage. And we can see that the bazooka is in a much better spot because it won't get stopped going down here, and therefore other infantry can come up behind the bazooka and not have to worry about getting stopped on their way. This is one of the few benefits of having a massive line of medium gunners, is that they can shoot through each other. So that's a good thing to note, but admittedly, I don't think you'll be using it very often. We should resupply this medium gunner. This is just kind of for all AI units. I'm not exactly sure how their ammo works, but I'm just going to assume that it's good to resupply it every once in a while, especially if their health is already kind of low. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of information out there that's super helpful about this stuff, but, you know, just do your best. As you can see, this medium gunner cannot see this area. It can see the trees right next to it, but not over here. And this is typically how infantry works, even though it can shoot over here. So, of course, you want to pay attention to where enemy infantry is going, so you can know if it's here or not. As you just saw there, that that bazooka basically got one tapped by the medium gunner because it has 3 veterancy. Very, very important. That is extremely useful with medium gunners, just for being able to one tap the 2 unit enemies. It's just great, because then they use their ambush and then they don't waste their second attack or this turn's attack, which makes them much more useful and a lot less vulnerable. We've now officially set up a complete line of medium gunners. In the vast majority of cases, you are not going to do this, especially in expert maps, but it's pretty fun just in this case, because if they run in anywhere on this entire line, which, unless they're smart and go this way, which they're not smart and go that way, then they will meet the medium gunners. One more thing I should say about this while I'm talking about this line, I guess, is you need to pay attention to what sounds the enemies are making. Obviously on this map, I know it's just infantry, but if I didn't know, I could easily be able to tell by the sounds of the enemy units. This can mostly just help with, on your first time, knowing whether or not you want to keep making medium gunners, or if you want to switch to making anti-other stuff, depending on what you can hear. Of course, we're just going to finish these guys off. Our medium gunners are now running low on ammo. This is something that happens just because the enemies usually have way more units than you do. They're just, like, dumber, so you've got to be careful. Though, it is much more of a problem with the light gunners, since their ammo is a lot lower. As you can see, last turn we did use most of our attacks during the turn, which means that we weren't able to ambush all of these guys. This means there could be units here, and if I don't finish these guys off this turn, which I will be able to, I wouldn't know if there were units here, and they would be able to sneak up and get a lot closer. Them being able to cover this ground is a huge deal, and it's going to make ambushing them way harder. There we go. See, this is what I'm talking about. These riflemen, we had no idea they were here. What really would have been the smart thing for me to do is use this medium gunner to shoot the guys that were here, and this one would be able to hit these guys that were here. However, in most cases, you won't have medium gunners right next to each other, but do keep in mind the ranges of your units, just so that you can leave the ones with the most range still having their attacks available in a case like that. And there we go. We win. That's about all you need to know about the medium gunner. Can go further with it, but that's really it. Fighting infantry is a lot simpler than fighting tanks and such. Thanks for watching until the end of the video. Make sure to like and subscribe, and just as a reminder, if you want a shout out, just leave a comment asking for one.